Within the human being, there's innate desires. I have a desire for water to quench my thirst, and there's water. Or I have a desire, I'm hungry for food, and there's food. C.S. Lewis said that, if he finds within himself a desire which nothing in this world can satisfy, then it's likely, the most probable explanation is that he is made for another world. I want to take some time over the next few weeks, maybe, I don't know how long, to look at roots and fruits, our identity in Christ, what it means to be in Christ, and why we do what we do, etc. Paul used the term in Christ, and he used it often. If we're in Christ, we're a new creature. We have new desires, and we're to cultivate new way of living, new desires. And our roots grow down deeply into Christ and produce a certain fruit. If the fruit's not there, then it begs the question of whether you're actually really in Christ or not. We used to sing a song that was it had a line in it that said, if you were arrested for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict you? Evidence, fruit, roots and fruits. So that's what I want to be talking about. I've met Christians, or people who call themselves Christians, or they identify as being Christian, and they're not living fruitful lives. They're living sort of unfruitful lives. They just continually struggle with the same thing over and over. Maybe their life is full of sin, as it were. It was the partying all the time, or sleeping around, or drinking alcohol far too much, or delving into things that they shouldn't delve into. It's like they're in one world but also in the other, and they often say, well, I'm forgiven, I'm secure in Christ, I'm not worried about it. And I guess I got news that you may not be as secure as you think you are. And there's an interesting word in the Hebrew in Psalms 78 in verse 36, 37. It says this: nevertheless, they did flatter him with their mouth and lie to him with their lips, for their heart was not right with him, neither were they steadfast in his covenant. That's a kind of a hard word, but it was saying how the Israelites, they would get into sin. God would send either trouble or calamity or something, so that they would cry out to him, and then he would turn and forgive their sin, and they go on and on. And the pattern seemed to go on and on, where they would continually fall back into sin again. Now, it says in the Psalms there that they would flatter him with their lips and lie unto him with their heart, because their heart, or with their tongues, because their heart was not right with him, neither were they steadfast in his covenant. The word for flatter comes from this root word patha, which means to be open, spacious, wide, entice, but also deceive, persuade, or even seduce. It's kind of like a woman who might seduce a rich man to get his money, but doesn't really care for him. Oh, you're handsome. Oh, you're such a gentleman. And everybody else seems to see right through it, but he doesn't, because he's being seduced. We say that she played him for a fool. We can do the same thing with God. We can play him for a fool. We get into trouble. Suddenly we start going to church. We start reading the Bible. We start praying. We're doing all the things we think God would like. And then as soon as things get better, we just sort of drift away again. We play him for a fool, but he's not a fool. He can't be mocked. He sees right through it. Right through our insincere praise, our worship, our tithing, whatever. He won't fall for any of that stuff. So there are those who call themselves Christian, which means Christ ones, or little Christs, who will say wonderful words of praise, thanksgiving. They pay their tithe, with full expectation of getting a whole bunch of money back. All these kind of things. They're just going about it the wrong way, and it is roots that need to be uprooted in order for the fruit to be good and better. Do they have the root that goes down deep into Christ, that enables them to continue to love God even when the blessings stop, so to speak? Remember how Jesus was upset at people who would come to him just to fill their stomachs, to get the loaves and fishes miracle, or to see a bunch of healings. But when when it came to actually obeying his word, they kind of walked away. Not kind of, they did. Their faithfulness to God was rooted in their own selfish desires. And if those desires are not met, well, they're gone. Let's not be those kind of people. If the heart desires are planted in Christ, planted in God and a love for God, then when the storms come, and they do, they don't abandon ship. They don't abandon ship, but they cling to it, and they cling to the rock that they're anchored to. Like Paul in the shipwreck in Acts, like he yells out, "Stay with the ship. Stay with the ship, and you all will be saved." And sometimes with God, no matter what happens, we need to stay with the ship. We need to be anchored, anchor our faith in Him, in Christ, in that root. Let that go deep. I was writing a song about I cast my faith heavenward and keep my anchor deep within your word, especially when the storms of life are overwhelming and the way they are today. Like, people, let your roots grow deep.